We want to go down to Lansing, Michigan, and the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Mike Rogers. Congressman, what about this idea? You heard what Senator Feinstein said about granting clemency to Edward Snowden and bringing him back to help investigate the National Security Agency.
Well, the only investigation here is to what extent he knew about the material that he stole and who else he worked with. Certainly the Russians are not allowing him to stay in the country of Russia because they think he's just a nice guy. There's clearly more to this story. So, Bob, I think that is a terrible... If he wants to come back and own up to the responsibility of the fact that he took and stole information, he violated his oath, he disclosed classified information that, by the way, has allowed 3 different terrorist organizations, affiliates of al-Qaeda, to change the way they communicate, I'd be happy to have that discussion with him. But he does need to own up with what he's done. And if he wants to talk through why he did it and those things, that would be the appropriate time and the appropriate way to do it.
You would not be willing to give him any kind of clemency, I take it.
No, I don't see any reason. You know, I wouldn't do that. He needs to come back and own up. We can have those conversations. If he believes there's vulnerabilities in the systems you'd like to disclose, you don't do it by committing a crime that actually puts soldiers' lives at risk in places like Afghanistan. You just don't do that. And to say that there's somehow a higher standard here, I think would be inappropriate.
You know, with every revelation, there's been more pressure to rein in the NSA. Do you think that needs to be done?
You know, this is the whole problem. We've focused a lot on the NSA, Bob, but not a lot about what the threat is. I mean, you think about the programs, all of which we've discussed, all of which are legal, all of which have the most oversight of any programs in the United States government. And it's happened when the Democrats controlled the Congress, when the Republicans controlled the Congress, when a Republican controlled the White House, when a Democrat controlled the White House. So the question now isn't how you rein in the NSA. The object is, listen, are they following the law? Are they protecting civil liberties? That's what the oversight committees do. I work well with Dianne Feinstein in that function of oversight. The question is, what are the threats to the United States? Who's using U.S. networks right now to steal intellectual property, like the Chinese, the Russians, and others? We've had cyber attacks against the United States this year from a nation state that exceeds over 300 different attempts to destroy some financial services networks that affects every American. We haven't talked about those things. We've got al-Qaeda spreading around the world in a way that is frightening. Think about it. Last year alone, some 15,000 terrorist-related deaths. It is the NSA, the CIA, and others charged to make sure that 0 of them happen here. 0. That's our standard. And so what we've asked them to do is go out and collect information that protects America. So every politician in Washington, both Republican and Democrat, are seized up by this hyper-partisanship and can't wait to put out a press release how terrible our intelligence services are. And the president seems to be caught like a deer caught in the headlights about how he deals with what all of us have done very careful work, both Republicans and Democrats, to oversee is engaging in the activities that protect American interests.
Do you take him at his word when he says that we're told that he didn't know about, for example, that we were eavesdropping on the German chancellor's cell phone? Can that be true?
Well,
can that be right?
I will tell you that I think there's going to be some Best Actor awards coming out of the White House this year and Best Supporting Actor awards coming out of the European Union. This is just a bit shocking to me that folks who are actively engaged in espionage efforts around the world, and by the way, espionage is a French word after all, in some notion that there's this big mystery under all of these years that some people just didn't have an understanding about how we collect information to protect the United States, to me is wrong. And unfortunately, all of this is that victim of this hyper-partisanship where people can't wait to get out in front of the cameras and say, boy, I sure don't like those intelligence services. And here's the problem, Bob. We did this in the 1930s. We turned it off in 1929. The Secretary of State at that time, where they were collecting information to protect America, said, you know, we shouldn't do this. This is unseemly. Turned it off. Well, that led to a whole bunch of misunderstanding that led to World War II that killed millions and millions of people. We did the same darn thing leading up to the Osama bin Laden effort, where we didn't want to talk to each other, we didn't coordinate intelligence activities, we didn't want to get certain things. and it led to 9/11 that took the lives of 3,000 Americans.
We've
learned a valuable lesson, but we need to focus on who the bad guys are. And the bad guys, candidly, are not U.S. intelligence agencies. They're the good guys at the end of the day.
Let me ask you about one of the alleged bad guys, which we apparently killed last week during a drone strike in Pakistan. Was this a big deal?
It was a big deal, and I'll tell you why it happened. By the way, all of those intelligence agencies, and I do mean all of them, that people are of both parties have decided are bad, contributed to leading up to what is a very difficult long-term collection of all sources of intelligence to make sure you can find an individual and do something about it. And reason this guy is a bad guy, he in 2007 kind of brought together all of the Pakistan Taliban, and they wanted to focus on, at that time, the Pakistani military. But they've also made threats to the United States, especially Hakamullah Masood, who said, hey, listen, we're going to conduct operations in the United States. And there is a relationship between the gentleman that showed up in Times Square and the individual that was taken off the battlefield here not a long time ago. This is the guy that's trying to create the problems both for Pakistan. He relates with Afghanistan Taliban. These are the folks that closed 500 schools, most of them girls' schools in the eastern provinces of Afghanistan. He's part of the Haqqani network, which is basically a giant organized crime group operating in the tribal areas of Pakistan who have been involved in supporting al-Qaeda, Taliban, and others. I mean, this was a bad guy. And by the way, there's some information recently that concerned us about the safety of our troops. I feel a little better for our troops today than I did before this event happened. And remember, this is the world we live in, Bob. That's what's so frustrating, I think, for Diane and myself. We deal with these threats every single day, and they are big, they are real, they affect real people. And I'll tell you, we should protect our soldiers in the field, and we should also protect their families who are here back in the United States. And we should use every means that is legal, protects civil liberties, and gets the job done. I think that's exactly what we're doing. That's the conversation I think we should be having.
Let me ask you one final question about the rollout of Obamacare. You came down very hard on HHS Secretary Sebelius when she came before Congress last week. And you said that what disturbed you most of all was that people were feeding into this website vital information about themselves, and you were very concerned about the security of that information, that it was now just out there for people to take. Are you satisfied yet that this has been corrected or will be corrected?
Well, no, and what was really shocking to me is even by their own words, they admitted that there was a high degree of risk when they were offering the website to go public. They never told anybody about that. They said that they think the risk was acceptable, but their information wasn't at risk. American people's information was at risk. Here's the problem. They're trying to change a tire on a car going 75 miles an hour down the expressway. That's not the way cybersecurity works. And unfortunately, both Diane and I both know the real threats to these systems when you have nation states and organized crime groups and criminals trying to get information that is now available on these websites. They need to take the site down, stabilize it, meaning they can't continue to add code every week, and then they need to stress test the system. Unfortunately, Bob, none of that has happened, and they admit it's going to take 6 months. That is unacceptable for the protection of privacy of Americans' information.
All right, I'm sorry we have to leave it there, but thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks.
Back in a minute.
Hey, thanks, Bob.